Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I am so honored, so grateful, and incredibly just excited. And just this moment in time that I have with me, the most amazing human being that I met through the Inspírame Latina. I met Lady Quispe, and she is just such an incredible human being. She is doing amazing work helping all of us kind of like come to earth. And when I say this is because many of us have avoided a healing process that we sometimes think we don't need any help. Like we think, oh no, it's okay, I'm great. But no, here I have with me the most amazing therapist that I've met. And her name is Lady Quispe. She is a licensed professional therapist with over 20 years of experience. She is approved clinical supervisor, ACS, and owner of Courageous Therapy in New Jersey. She is renowned for her transformative approach to healing unresolved trauma, empowering individuals to break free from the cycles of generational trauma, self sabotage, and impulsive behaviors. With her clinical approach to her clients, they are able to embrace their autonomy and authenticity. And I'll tell you, I don't know about you, but I need some of that. And so I am so encouraging everyone that is listening to connect with Leidy. Without further ado, I want to introduce her to you and let her basically say a few words before we dive into an amazing interview. Thank you, Leidy.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lorilet. I mean, it's just such an honor to be here with you. And what it really struck me the most about you, aside from you being beautiful and an amazing human being as well, is really taking that moment to listen to these mental health struggles that we all go through, to this stigma still on mental health, especially the Latino community. But just you stopping and saying, hey, I need to talk to you further. Oh my God, it really brings all of this. It's so worthy. Like, it's so like, oh, okay, now I know why I'm so dedicated and passionate about this work, because people like you can see it and understand and get it, that it's not about just moving forward. It's also about see and understand what is happening. And for you to be so detailed, so thoughtful, is very powerful. Because again, that's what we need. We need more of people that become curious. Hey, tell me more. I'm just like amazed. So thank you so much for taking this time as well from your busy schedule.
Yes, for me, this was most imperative. I thought it was one of those really important moments in our lives when we define, what are you going to support? What missions are you going to support?
Right.
And when I met you, I said, I want to support this mission. I like what she's doing. I think she's amazing, not only outside, but what she's doing on the inside for people, for herself, her own journey, everything. And I felt very compelled to reach out to ask you to just share even more about who you are, what you do because of that, because that's my way of supporting also your mission. I put up a few questions here and there. We'll just have conversation throughout. You will be able to share your insights, as I know that you are an immigrant to this country, and that in itself is a journey that as immigrants, because I'm also an immigrant, um, it's an experience that is kind of like, I'm going to say, on a branded experience, meaning if you're not an immigrant, you're not going to necessarily understand per se, but hearing our stories can kind of enlighten people. Can you share a little bit about your journey as an immigrant, and how you came to the US and some of those challenges that you face, but that somehow also made you better personally and professionally?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Because that's exactly part of who I am today, those experiences. I came here at 15 years old. My mom was already here. So that's part of the generational trauma, unfortunately. A lot of parents that had to come and leave the kids in the country. So I was part of that community as well, that I have, my mom had to come here when I was 3 years old. And, she was able to bring me here at 14. And let me tell you, I knew I had to come because obviously the circumstances of I'm from Colombia, Medellin. And I knew in my heart, even though I was very young, I was only 14, but I knew I needed, something better. I needed a better future. So I definitely came in alone, and it was just very difficult, especially with the language. I felt at the beginning when I started high school, because I came here in the ninth grade, honestly, you started really even doubting how smart you are, your talents, your skills, because this language, I just felt so small during those years. When I was with my people, right? With my people that were in the same boat of, just coming here, struggling with the language, I was the happiest, of course. But coming back into the school and obviously, having to do a lot of learning, and that was my struggle, and wanting to communicate to my professors. That's when I really started even just doubting my identity and my worth and how smart I was. So that was such a journey that it took me a long time as well, because then you start the insecurity and the lack of confidence, then it starts interfering with your ability to learn the language. And I know that I'm very blessed, because obviously all these experiences made me who I am, because today I can tell you I have so much of this radical empathy, so much of a deepest understanding of the immigration part of when people come in, that is not only, you know, separating from whether the family members, a new culture, new belief system, but also just encountering the challenges of the language, even parents, at schools. Like my mom was barely involved because obviously she didn't understand the language. So it's
Mhm.
like maneuvering this engagement at school too. That's another challenge for a lot of parents. And then for myself, again, I just felt very alone, and almost like in a survival mode. The first, I want to say the first 6 years, it was very difficult, that journey.
Wow. Thank you for just sharing all of that. And I want you to know that what you're saying in terms of even the length is very consistent with what we would determine be the mastery of cognitive academic language skills. So, cognitive academic language skills take about 7 years for them to actually happen. And so, when I hear you saying that for about 6 years, you were in this whole mode, right? Of like, boy, am I sinking? Am I swimming? Am I dancing? Am I going? You were actually experiencing that whole process of just redefining and also acquiring and relearning new ways of thinking with a new paradigm, with a new culture, with a new everything, a new set of sounds in the language and the variation. You are one of those few people that I have met that I think because of your background knowledge and understanding of just process-based learning and just who we are in terms of the impact of these stressors on your life, you were able to describe it in such a clear way. And I hope that our listeners are also kind of factoring in the importance of everything you said. 'Cause sometimes we're very harsh on our children.
And even you, Dr. Lorilet, explaining that, I wish I would have knew this before. I wish I would had, or my mom had that information, because there is so much expectations. And then when you're not meeting those expectations, then you're not doing good at school, you're lazy, you're stupid, you're not understanding, you're not doing enough. Imagine what it does to your self-worth. So I wish we had more of this information, and even in the school system as well. I think it would have just made so much of a difference for us not to doubt how still smart we are, and with so much skill, so much to offer still. But you just doubt that, so constantly, every day.
Yes, and I love that we're having this like out in the open because I hope that when people catch this episode and listen to it, then they also can go back and look at their kids and realize, oh my goodness, my kid has been needing support, not judgment. My kid has been needing someone to guide them, not to have all these expectations of a system that they totally just don't know. They're new to it. 7 years before that even happens.
Wow. I wish I knew this. Yeah.
So thank you for again expanding on that. Now, in terms of now that you mentioned all of this, I'm thinking about your identity, right? Assuming, right, that now you're coming in, you're a teenager, pretty much you have a lot of basic understanding of who you are, like where you're from, your culture, you have certain things that are like there already, that it's not like you trying to figure them out. So this whole thing about your identity, how has your identity during that course of time has one shaped the way you do therapy? Because I'm sure now some of that it's still there, and also supporting your clients. How has that knowledge of who you are supported you?
I think I just want to clarify too something, the shame before I go into the good stuff.
Oh,
There's also a lot of shame internalized with this language barrier, because again, you really deep inside internalize you're not good enough. So this language issue is so powerful. And I'm so glad that we have educators like you talking about this because again, it's really education is power so we can understand better. Though, even though it was that very difficult journey of that shame of doubting my self-esteem, I honestly feel if I didn't have this part of my life with this culture, adjusting to a new culture, the new country, I don't think I would be the therapist that I am today because, the level, my clients sense that understanding. Now, the beautiful thing too about my experience and shaping my identity is my capacity, my ability to just also connect with people from other countries, not just the Latino. I have Indians, they're first generation. I have people from like Greeks, so much of this big richness of other countries as well. And I thought that was going to be, how am I going to do that? But just knowing, like, just your body language, just the way you're able to understand the struggles, the stories, even from the first generation here, understanding their parents' struggles as well, because there's so much disconnect, first generation versus the parents as well. That, and then the language, right? If they start really learning this English and then the parents and the kids are now understanding each other. They're not talking with the grandparents. So I think this has been so rich, this experience, because I'm here to really tell them, I hear you. I I can connect with you. I can identify myself with you. So I think that identity of really richness of these struggles, challenges, and prevailing, right? That's the beautiful thing too. Being able to prevail, being able just to never give up, being able to just continue being persistent. It's just been a tremendous superpower. I call it now the superpower. Something that it was very shameful before. Now it's my superpower because I just can connect not only again with the Latino community, with just so much of diverse background, cultural background, that it makes my practice so much, so much welcoming and more healing. Because for them, it's also the trust, right? Trusting people, even from other cultures as well. The Indian community, it's just so difficult for them to trust, right? So even having this background, I feel just being the key and here and expanding my practice so much because people feel seen. People feel seen, understood, and that they have so much to offer.
Yes. Everything you're saying is very empowering. And, what I like about this way how it transformed your whole life's purpose, because now you realize, wait a minute, I can connect to this foundational experience where people can then realize, wait, you are such an amazing human being. And just because you have all these different issues going on doesn't mean you can't tap into your greatness and start building a superpower out of all these parts that were fragmented in your life that don't need to stay fragmented. We can start to build and make sense. And I can see how you're saying that your clients feel that because of the authenticity, right? Like that's the piece, because you're like, no, I get you, and I'm here to tell you, come, it's okay. You'll be safe, you'll be seen, you won't be judged for your accent. And if you want to work on your accent, that's great too. Like you are willing to realize, like, wait, there's a process that you're undergoing. You don't have to feel like you're losing yourself as you're gaining more skills. And I love what you're saying because it's just powerful. If people read what you're saying as like, wait, yeah, okay, I can work on all these things if I choose to, from an empowered place, not from a place of shame.
Exactly.
And I say that because I underwent accent modification, to continue to improve my voice, my diction, my pronunciation, and all that. And that was awesome for me. I don't find it as a destructive path. Now, not everybody likes to work on their accent. And I feel like that's the beauty in being able to see it as something that you don't have to make it feel like it's a shameful process. Just as an example, because this language piece is huge as an immigrant. And you've connected how some of this stuff also starts showing up in our lives through the shame, the fear, the invisibility, all of these different issues that you kind of touched upon of where people start feeling not doing well enough and all of these things. So I have a question for you. Like, as you think about it, what role do you think that maybe all of this played in you deciding, you know what, I'm going to become a therapist? Did it play any role in it, or did you become a therapist for other reasons?
Well, I think it's overall. I think that had a lot to do with my experiences. I always felt in my heart, I just wanted to help.
Mm,
I always felt this, need, almost like a need to show up, to help, to be there for people. And so I wasn't sure what it was exactly. And this is what I tell a lot of, teenagers. You don't have to have everything figured out too.
mm.
Relax, because a lot of parents as well, a lot of people put themselves so much into this pressure of a lot of pressure to know exactly what you need to do. And so it took me even the first year of college because of the language too. I felt a little lost as well. I was still carrying a lot of that shame and a lot of feeling a little lost in regards to language. Though it finally came to me that I said, I need to connect to people at a more individualistic level because then I thought maybe teaching, because teaching is also like helping.
Yeah.
And I said, I was working in the language department actually in college. I was like, let me just work. I need to work. And I started feeling people coming in, just having these conversations with them, like from different countries, but a lot of the Latino community as well. And I would just finding myself conversing and them conversing to me like very easy, very flowing. So that year, those months working there, I said, no, I like the one-on-one. I love this energy from people as well and being able to just navigate through conversations, just even hearing them. And I think that powered, I think of being able to listen to people's stories, being able to make people feel seen and that they mattered. I think that's what I said. Okay, no, I need to do something in which I can talk to people just one-on-one. And I think that was, I think also, my struggles, just being able to empathize. You cannot do this job without empathy. If you really don't have all of these experiences and challenges under your belt, it's just so hard to connect. And again, you said it perfectly, authenticity. People will know when you're not being authentic. So this profession is hard. It's not, and I tell
Mhm.
people, if you're going to choose this mental health, please make sure you're passionate. People would see you through that, through those lenses of you being authentic, of you connecting. So I think that was the way that I kind of started saying, this is aligning more with who I am, my personality. I think it's also very powerful, aligning those careers with you, personality, your identity. And I couldn't be happier that I was able to narrow it down because, again, I had so many other things in mind, but I was able to narrow it down just one on one. And I need to help people because I know how they probably are feeling. So just that understanding of my own struggles, growing up in a very dysfunctional family, a lot of the generational trauma, then immigration here, it was just these struggles and these challenges and not giving up. And that it made me feel like I understand you. I hear you. And I think I could not have chosen a better career than just in a career that I'm able to be myself, that I'm able to empathize and also provide that empowerment to people. Like I have people here that they have come keeping the secrets for years, decades, and just finding that person that they feel so connected. I just get chills that they get so much of this connection, this empathy, and able to just let that out. They feel so much lighter. They feel so much better. So I think, choosing this career, aligning so much with my level of empathy and level of, I went through so much this experiences. So I hear you. I understand you. So I'm very happy that I was able to get into a career that I love so much.
Yes, and it's very evident, in just your messaging and the kinds of comments that you just put out. This is one of the reasons why I'm also doing this. I want people to one, know that they can share and learn from others. Not always do you have to go ahead and, if you're not vulnerable to talk about all your things in public, you don't have to. People you have to feel
Mm.
ready to do that if that's a way you want to do that. But if not, the best way is actually to seek the help, to get the support and get in line with someone who has a practice that can support that need. And that's exactly where someone like you is so vital as a resource, which is why I want people to be able to go ahead and check out your posts, which I find very engaging. I try to go in here and there and because I do appreciate that you also do like little skits, kind of like showing, because then it makes people go, oh, wait, is that me? And if it's at any point people identify with something, they can reach out privately. This is not, you're not going to expose any of their things. And this is one of the most beautiful aspects of getting the help from a professional. It's not like you're talking to your best friend. There is a relationship that is a professional relationship where your private stuff is not exposed out there. There's a fiduciary component to that relationship where you're due a level of respect, and I think it's important for people to also remember that it matters. Right? That no one has the right to tell your story unless you want to tell your story. And that if you find yourself needing to find someone you can trust that is a professional, Leidy has a practice that is open just for that kind of support. And that is amazing. And you also speak Spanish perfectly. For those who are Spanish speakers, they also can get access to support in Spanish if that's one of the apprehensions. Because I know sometimes people are like, oh, but will she be able to communicate with me? Yes, if it's in Spanish. Yes, if it's in English. Do you have any other providers in your practice that speak any other languages? Just wondering in case others want to
Well,
like
in
that.
August, that's when I'm going to start the clinic. So we are making sure that we're going to hire clinicians that are coming from that diversity background as well, and that they speak at different languages as well. So that's the key for this practice. And of course, they're going to be trained under me as well. And again, this place, we have a HIPAA compliant. Everything is confidential, and I think that's what is attracting, mental health is becoming a little more out there. I'm very glad. Not as much as we wish, but a little more out there just because of the simplicity of is going to be and remains promised confidential. Your information will never be shared. This is how people have saved their life because I have a lot of people coming here struggling with suicidal thoughts, with very dark thoughts and very dark places. So just having this person that they're gonna feel the confidence that is gonna remain private, confidential, it has saved their lives. They're not
Thank you.
longer suicidal.
Thank you, because you're just saying, hey, listen, all of that muck and all of that yuck that you may
Right.
feel inside, just come. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a treatment plan. Let's support you with what you need. Let's work this through, because together we can build better and we can reconstruct anything and create something new altogether. So I love all this, and I hope that people really kind of take that in and take that serious call, like, wait, I am worthy to fight for. I am alive. I matter. I can go get help. And no one is going to shame you. No one is going to make you feel less. No one is going to judge what you're going through or what you're thinking. No one is going to find that what you're thinking is the worst of the worst, because maybe God knows all that they've heard already in life. This is the moment that you can go ahead. And if you're listening to this interview and you feel compelled that you want to go get help, just go and call, just send a message. Make sure you reach out for support. Lady Quispe has a whole practice. I cannot stress this enough. Now, I'm going to continue on with our interview, but I wanted to pause to make sure, because sometimes people get triggered just even by listening to anything, and I want to make sure they know that even if any memory of any event or anything they've been through, even as an immigrant, may have touched something in their lives or a sense of pain, that there is a solution and a way out and a way forward. Now, I have a question regarding, maybe some perspectives or paradigms that you find have been useful in your practice as you've been working in the community for the past 20 years and you know in the whole field of of therapy in itself, and again coming with this unique perspective, what is like something that you find has been a shift, like a paradigm changer for you, like in your practice? Can you share a little bit?
Yes, of course. I mean, thank you for asking that because this is very key. I started my experience with doing a lot of family work. So I'm also a family therapist that I have, and I still do family work. Clients that bring their family in. I work a lot with kids as well for 15 years. I understood that working now with adults individually, we need to have better approaches because obviously you don't want to be in sessions just venting because venting at some point can be hurting you more than really helping. It's really good again to I have a whole approach. First, I need to connect with you. We're going to connect. The relationship is exactly what it needs to happen in this therapeutic process, right? Because unfortunately, growing up, parents were not perfect and we were hurt by these relationships, by these attachments. So, what is going to be there repairing is now you having a positive, a very, beautiful, authentic relationship with this therapist. So, that itself for me is number one priority that we're going to have a good relationship, a good connection. Now, I had to help you to know that you can do even more than just talking about your problems. I know there's other ways, and this is why I decided to specialize on EMDR, which is, it's an eye reprocessing intervention that it just helps clients revisit a lot of the childhood experiences through the lenses of the adulthood now. They're now adults going into these painful memories and desensitizing themselves. It's almost like detaching so much from this trauma that is holding them back, that is keeping them trapped, or with very low self-worth, right? So what we want to do with this now, very evidence. This is a evidence-based practice, which is the EMDR, is going to really directly help the client, again, desensitize from these painful memories. And now, once they let go of the old memories, programming, beliefs, they completely change themselves. That's really the change. And that's something that through the venting, through the talk therapy, it was very difficult to take clients to the next level. It was becoming very unsuccessful. And again, at the beginning is fine, at the beginning of the therapeutic relationship, but at some point, I know and I have fully faith that my clients can do better and they can do more. I mean, we're very powerful. The way we are so resilient, going through so much trauma, these difficult challenges, the way you are resilient to do your work. So I know a lot of people, it's so difficult for them to be vulnerable, to cry, to really revisit these experiences. But I can tell you this as an specialized, clinician, therapist, this is really the key for you to heal and move forward. Do you want to transform? Do you want to liberate yourself from all of these programming, internalized beliefs that are not longer helping you? Then you just had to do this work of really revisiting these memories. And this is going to be the game changer. I mean, my clients have stopped addiction, stopped anxiety, panic attacks, impulsive behavior, self-destructive, getting out of very toxic relationships. They not holding onto that pain, onto those beliefs that are really just running their lives. So if we can help them detach from this trauma, remember, it's not about just staying and revisiting all this past. It's revisiting, being aware, connecting with it in order to disconnect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
And
that's the power of this intervention.
yeah, I love what you've shared. And, is there a specified number of sessions that people have to go through, or is that varies, or
It varies depending on the because remember we have the childhood programming, the trauma, right? As an adult, you're still carrying that. Now there is, I'm gonna be honest, there is people that have a lot of layers and layers of complexity of traumas growing up. So it wasn't only this, it was also this and that and addiction and so the more complexity, of course, is gonna take a little longer. Now, if it's just, the PTSD, if it's just childhood trauma, it can take between 6 months, between 3 months as well, depending on how the client is ready. It's all about, are you open and curious? If you open and curious and you said, okay, I can trust you, that's why, getting that trust with this therapist is crucial in this work, because it's such a deep work that you do have to feel you trust in this person. So if you're really open and curious and you trust in this process and you are okay being vulnerable, knowing that this is going to be the game changer, then it's going to be less time in therapy. It can be up to 6 months, it could be 3 months. If it's just one event, it can be even faster. Yes.
And normally people
Um,
meet normally people meet weekly. Is it like once a week, once a month? How do people meet?
at the beginning of therapy, I could be flexible. The best approach is going to be once a week for 1 hour. That's going to be the best way that you're really going to just work through all of this, because it's a lot that we've been carrying. There's people that are very busy and they can come twice a month, which is every 2 weeks. Now, coming once a month is really not therapy at that point, because you're really not, processing, because you want to just do this with your therapist. When once you leave the therapy, you don't want to be, still pouring this out, because it's just going to overwhelm you. Either once a week for 1 hour or twice a month. I would recommend mostly once a week, especially at the beginning, to just build up that rapport, that connection and everything else, and that connection with yourself, because you're going to be opening yourself to a lot of stuff from the past.
Yes.
So it's better the consistency. But boy, I'm going to just reassure you, a lot of people have transformed their lives going through this process. They have let the past in the past and not longer controlling their lives. Remember, these traumatic events of this childhood imprinting is going to let you to be triggered. Like even me with with the English, learning the language, it was so triggering, because obviously growing up with a very authoritarian grandma, with a lot of carrying so much of that generational trauma, it was so triggering
Mhm.
when somebody was making me feel small or invisible. So that's what we want to do in these sessions of EMDR, that you're not longer going to feel so triggered. Right.
Makes perfect sense. I love everything that you're sharing, and I hope that our listeners and viewers can get to catch on to the value in this, right? How important and how critical it is for us to be able to do this work, and that we all kind of need it in some way or another, even when we don't necessarily realize the depth. And sometimes it may not be a major trauma, but there are certainly memories and different issues in our lives that may be tied back into that whole childhood aspect, where people only did what they knew best. They weren't trying to harm us. Our ancestors, whether it be grandparents or our parents,
Sure.
none of them did it in an intention to harm. Yet we all kind of went through different imprinting as a result of the lack of understanding. And so I love that you're able to say this and be like, let the past be in the past. And but at the same time, you're like, we gotta kind of make peace with it. And that process may take a little while, but once you really come to eye level, you're really gonna be free. And I love what you're saying, because you're not trying to be like, oh, forget it, oh, erase it, oh, act like it never happened, oh, fake it till you make it. None of these weird ideas of like, oh, nothing has happened here, scrub off and keep going, but more like, oh, wait, let's look. What really happened? Wait, let's wind the tape. And I love this. So hopefully people who are catching on realize that there's very empowering purpose behind the work that you're doing, and the invitation that you extend to anyone who feels compelled to do that self work. So it's not just like talk to somebody, and you're not moving beyond the talking.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. And even you, Dr. Lorilet, one thing that was very powerful about your presentation as well in the summit, when you were talking about these words that kids hear, and you ask the people, what do you feel when you hear the word shame? This is exactly the trauma. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Because those words by our caregivers, that again, it's a paradigm. I call it the paradigm of the generational trauma. They didn't know any better. That's what they thought. That hurting you was going to help you to learn the lesson. So there is this whole paradigm that we internalize. Now, these words that you were asking the public, it was amazing because that's what it leads to you not feeling good enough when you're hearing this from people that you love, right? So you internalize this, and now you start becoming this person that are having self doubt, that are not thinking they're good enough, that they feel invisible. And as they get older, they're going to keep aligning with that internalized belief and those words. It's just so amazing how it works. And I love what you were discussing that day because I was like, yes, that's exactly what it is.
And the reason why I could talk about it is because in many aspects of my own life, as I started to think about certain issues in my own private life, I was like, this is sort of like how it went. And so I kind of like know that path of the language piece. There are other pieces that, of course, I don't know, which is one of the reasons why I'm like, you know what, EMDR might be something I would want to explore,
Mhm.
for my personal life. And I think because sometimes we don't realize where those childhood issues the
Yes.
culprit, even though you're like, but I know this piece, but then you're like, wait, something is not 100% where I want it.
Like
You
for
rush to
Russian.
know, right? Because and you're like, wait, maybe I'm missing this piece, which is fine. Is having the courage to start, like you said, that curiosity of like, wait, could I benefit from this type of intervention, and what's the worst that could happen? And then you kind of free yourself up of any hangups with it, and you could try it and be like, no, I hated it, or no, you know what, I actually, no, I want to do this. And it's a matter of that inner chatter of processing it. So I love even the fact that we're having this conversation here, because I know that if you and I are thinking through all this like this, tons of people are probably also. I don't think we're unique flakes in life, like, oh, they're so special. No, I think I'm just like anyone else who's gone through a whole bunch of stuff. And things I do really well, some things I'm horrible at. And at the same time, I still keep pushing where I can to improve. And that's my invitation to anybody, right? Like I don't have it all together. Please, people, do not think I have it all
Neither. I'm still
together.
working through it.
I work every day at a little piece of me, and I do my best to give you my best, right? Not a fake, but to give you my best, what that is, because I think that's the way I can respect you, right? But that doesn't mean that I don't have issues. It doesn't mean that my life is perfect. It doesn't mean I don't have problems. So I want to be vulnerable enough for people to know that when you give yourself this permission, it's like giving yourself like $1 million ticket,
Yeah.
like a lottery. Like, wow, you're winning at your own ability to thrive within, not about some stuff out there. It's not for the public.
Yeah. And Dr. Lorelei, one thing very simple that I tell my clients, and again, I think if I didn't go through this experience of healing myself as well with EMDR as well, with another professional, I wouldn't be able to be so, help influential because I believe so much in it. I did it myself. Though I do tell people, do you think you were born feeling with low self-worth? You think we're born anxious, panic attacks, impulsive, poor boundaries? You were not just born like that. No, is because there are things in the environment, in the parents and schooling and society made you feel this way, but that's not really who you are. That's why I said at the end of my work with me, you're going to become your most authentic self. That authenticity is going to prevail because now you're going to be somebody that is going to feel you good enough just as you are, that you can set boundaries. It's okay. That you can have this place that, you don't have to keep bottling all of these feelings inside. So what I want to invite people is knowing, being curious about those struggles that you're facing, because that might not be you. That's something that you have to become in order to survive your life. If you were more quiet, if you kept things inside, if you had anger issues, a lot of these things were probably your survival mechanisms, but it's not really you. And I would invite people to just be curious about who really yourself is, because you can be surprised of how this amazing person, human being you are, instead of all of these things that might not be a reflection of you. That's so
Absolutely
amazing.
love this. My goodness, it's like so empowering. It's pure gold. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Now, I wanted to ask you maybe
Sure.
two more questions and
Yes,
we're gonna
of
wrap up.
course.
It's
No,
just
go ahead.
you have so many wonderful things. I think at some point when you open up and expand your other
Yes.
part of your practice, we probably will meet again and maybe you'll talk yeah, a little
Absolutely.
bit about all the amazing things, that the new practice is going to be bringing, just because I would want people to have like a little insight into stuff that you're going to be sharing, once you read
This is
at the
an
text.
ongoing thing.
Yeah, because I love it and I think it's so important. Now, what do you think, in terms of our communities, how do you like what would you suggest for them to help them address some of these issues? Like I know when we were at the summit you shared a few basic steps that people could take. I don't know if you could share a little bit on them or not, so that they can kind of have a few little basic, I'm going to say, strategies of things that they should be doing in this process. um because I thought that was really helpful. It was so incredible. If you don't mind sharing steps.
The listen, it's simple. I can really put it very simple. First, just be aware. Become aware that something is no longer working. Whether you have a lot of anxiety, whether you have these tendencies of perfection, whether anything, just become aware something is not longer working. And that is the first step, the enlightenment. And then I think it's very important. The second one is knowing that this is for you now to do. This is not for your parents to help you. This is not for your partner. This is now you taking the ownership, because it's so much power when you decide to give yourself that time to know something is happening and I'm going to take care of this. What a powerful thing to do, that you're going to take care of yourself finally, and that you're going to stop blaming everybody else. This is for me to do. Now, and the third step is we really need to know we cannot do this alone. Guys, even me as a licensed therapist with all of this experience, I realized at some point I couldn't continue reading and understanding. I needed to ask for help and seek a therapist myself, because I had to walk the walk as well. But even me, I realized, whoa, I need help. And I think that's very powerful. Just knowing that you can go ahead and ask for help, whether it's a coach, whether it's a therapist. But please ask for help. You can no longer do this alone. And like we were discussing before, the fourth one is you do have to be open and curious. You do have to be open and curious to explore what is that programming that you internalize, and because of that, now you're struggling with your current issues as an adult. Whether it's codependency, whether it's poor boundaries, whether it's anxiety, depression, being in toxic relationships. So I think the fourth one is really being willing to connect with those childhood experiences, so it does not longer control your present life. And you are going to be really curious about understanding your triggers so you can let them go.
I love
So
it.
I think just being very curious, being very willing to, now it's my time to be vulnerable, to experience this, painful memories. I'm going to just face it. I'm going to use the resilience, the tools that it got me to be a survivor. I'm going to use it right now, and I'm going to be vulnerable and open. And I think once you detach and let go, again, that's the superpower of this work, is the authenticity. You're
Yes.
finally going to discover who you really are, instead of who you had to become in order to survive.
Yes.
Let that shame, let that guilt, free yourself, liberate from all of this stuff. Now, the beautiful thing about this EMDR, it's beautiful, because then you're gonna start really through some sort of mindfulness exercises. You're gonna do a lot of what coaches are doing, which is, kind of helping clients to imprint now these new beliefs that they wanna, internalize. I'm good enough. And that's done through this work of EMDR, that now we're going to really help you through
Right.
exercises of mindfulness. really just keep talking to yourself because the language is so powerful. And
It's
we do
huge.
that over and over. And that really sinks in because we really just try to work with your subconscious. So that's the last step that I would tell people. You're gonna realize this was worth it because we're gonna help you with exercise, continue working through the subconscious of who you really were meant to be. I'm good enough, I'm worthy, I have
Mhm.
boundaries, I'm okay. I don't have to be perfect. So that is the beautiful thing of the last step. It
Yes.
really trust this process.
Right. Because then you get to create on a very strong foundation.
Yes.
You're not
Yeah.
just creating on a thing that's wobbly because you didn't address those cracks.
Oh, I love it.
And
I love it.
I really see exactly
I
why
love
what
it.
you have in your hands is
Very smart,
so
very good.
powerful, is really powerful
You
stuff.
got it.
I am hoping that also people who are listening can have a vision of how what they want is attainable. That yes, it's going to require a commitment,
Yeah.
you know, a commitment of, hey, be curious, hey, be willing, hey, be accepting that you could only take yourself this far, and hey, be also vulnerable to say, I need help, raise your hand and go ahead and identify that you need this, and at the same time be willing to stay open to a process so that you can clean up whatever that mess could be,
Yeah.
right? Because you're not saying rejected, you're just saying you know you have a lot to do, get it done, and to be able to say to yourself, yeah, I can do this. I can do this. This is very powerful. This
Yes.
is really powerful. Just even as you are describing process of it, I think it's really a powerful thing to bring home to people who may be wondering, but how or why? You know, because a lot of people, I think, when you speak of something like new, right? Like they're like, I don't know, I've never done it. I don't, would it work for me? Would it not? But you know, they stay in that like stuck, as opposed to like, what about if I'm curious? What about if I just go ahead and be curious? And what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? The best could happen. And then what about if you miss on the best because you weren't willing to be vulnerable to be curious? So I think it's such a game changer. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I just want to also tell people, remember, if you broke a bone, if you have an injury, what is it that you do? Right? You go to physical therapy, you make sure you consistently, do your physical therapy exercise, right? It's the same with childhood wounds, right? It just people don't because they don't see it, it's not
Yes.
appearing in your skin and you're not having these open wounds that are visible, tangible, then it doesn't matter.
Yes.
And it does matter because just do your research. Look EMDR, look depression, do your this is all evidence-based methods for us to be specialized on this. I'm still working on because it's so much work when something is evidence-based. As therapists, we have to do double the work
Mhm.
because we have to, if we have to make sure we get the results that is as evidence-based proven. This is years. It started from the 1980s and is all being research studied. So if you may be having some sort of hesitation, look it up, EMDR, or look it up, interventions for depression. This is all really out there with the studies. There is research base. I mean, sometimes I have, if I have a client that is dealing with so much depression, right? I'm able to put them on disability because now is really evident that you can have equally a disease or having to be on disability for a physical illness is the same as if you have a mental illness. So I just want you guys to know that this is really out there. It's just a matter of being open research and you would find it, right? Because there is people that can be hesitant. And how do I know? This is
Yes.
the research base. This is facts. And you
Yes.
can look it up.
I love it. I love it. Now, this is my last question.
Of course, of course.
If you could go back and give advice to yourself when you first arrived in the United States, now that you kind of like have gone through a journey, you know, of really connecting the dots for yourself and realizing everything that you've realized through the work that you do, the self-healing, plus I'm sure everyday work that you probably do for your own self. What would you say? What would be some of the things that you would say, especially from the lens of realizing what a creative and wonderful practice you've made and all the beautiful things you are doing and just who you have become and what that could possibly mean for all of us, not just only your own win. Because remember, as immigrants, we went through our own people too. So, this is why for me, this was like, wow, seeing this is incredible. It's very inspiring, but also it just reminds me, wow, we are so resilient. How amazing. So, can you share a little bit about what that would be like? What would you say? Because any younger people could be hearing and they might just become encouraged too.
Yeah, I mean, you give me chills. I have goosebumps with that question. That's very powerful, very I could see why you could connect so much to people and be such a like this human being of this authenticity and connection because that speaks to me very deep of that question because that means how much you care. Honestly, I wish first there's a few things, but first is I wish what I heard from you at the beginning of this interview. You said it takes about 6 years. I think
About
it's
7 years.
somebody 7 years, right? It's somebody would have just said that to me. It's okay. This is not dictating who you are. This has nothing to do with your self-worth, with how smart you are.
Nope.
Because for that reason, not having that education, for not having that information, I struggle on a daily basis, not feeling that I belong, not feeling seen, feeling very insecure, very people pleasing, very poor boundaries because I just wanted to be accepted. I just wanted to be loved. And because of this language and not being able to just communicate with people and, people embarrassing me, even teachers, right? Like it just put such a stain on my identity. And again, just feeling that belonging. So I think if I just had that education, that would have been so powerful. That would have changed my life. I would have been able to even help my peers as well because I had friends that were also immigrants as well that were struggling with the language. And let me just tell you something, and this is truth. Most of my friends at that time, about 10 friends that we came at the same time, they drop out of high school. They couldn't take the pressure. They couldn't take the shame, the embarrassment, and they drop out. I had to say because obviously my mom was very strong on the education. But again, if I can tell my younger self is it's okay. This is very difficult. You're adjusting to everything. I can't believe you're gonna be able to make it. You're gonna make it. Like I wish I had those words of encouragement of it's gonna be okay. And later on, this is gonna be your superpower to save people, to change, to transform. Like I get chills again. If I can just say to that younger self, it's okay. This is all equipping you to be a better person, to have your identity much rich, more better, deeper. Like this is just gonna make you a better person. I think I would have sell myself so much into this settling in relationships, again, poor boundaries, I would have just really believe in myself and not letting anybody doubt myself and how smart I was. Because again, it took me a while to even just find myself in my career because there was this deep voice that was whispering, I don't think you're smart enough because you're not getting the English. You're not really getting this language. So that whispering of that voice was always so internalized and sabotaging a lot of my dreams and a lot of goals. So again, I think if I had much of this information, this voice, because I didn't have my voice either, and that they said, don't worry, this is just a matter of time. And this is what is going to help you to be this powerful person changing people's lives. I think that would have changed the trajectory of my life. Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, and I can see why, because it would have sped up the whole process. Probably you would have taken less. But at the same time, how amazing it is, right? When we stay consistent and committed through our growth, because you've achieved all of this through perseverance, dedication, but most importantly, by doing that messy work of healing, by going through this whole labyrinth and realizing, oh my goodness, I need to find all of these pieces of myself and integrate them and realize how valuable I am and realize I'm worthy and realize all of these things that you're mentioning that right now are your superpower because now you realize their value in how it was equipping you. So
Yeah.
just thinking about your whole trajectory, your path, what you've built, and what you have to offer the world. It is my honor just to have someone like you and even to have conversations about these subjects because our communities, and I think the world need this content a lot and people need to feel safe about having these conversations, not judged, not in pain and not upset, but rather be like, you know what? Yes, I can give myself, I can achieve, and that doesn't go on other people's agenda, it goes on my agenda, my timeline, my reclaiming of the self. And I love what you're doing. So thank you. Thank you for all that. I think many people can follow also suit with that and realize, wait a minute, what advice would I give myself now that I've heard this conversation? And what is the next best step I can take to heal myself?
Yeah, and I just want people to know whatever you're struggling with, whatever you thinking is something that is, it's a tragedy. Oh, the immigration, all this stuff. These experiences are really equipping you to be the best version of yourself because that strength, that resilience is what is going to really show up later. And we all have something in us to share. We have a message. So the more you heal, the more you become your authentic self, you're going to feel so empowered and so worthy to just keep helping, to just become this best version of yourself. It doesn't matter of you finding yourself again and knowing that you are worthy, even just to do the work, to do the healing. Because unfortunately, if you don't, we can remain stuck. We can remain paralyzed. And it's not fair because I know for every person, there is so much to offer. I know it.
I hope that also people connect with you on social media. Can you share your social media handle information now so that
Yes, please. My name is, you can also find my name, all of the information on my practice in Lady Quispe in the psychology profile. So you just Google my name, Lady Quispe. I'm also on Instagram of at Lady Therapy. And I share a lot of my insights, a lot of my clients' experiences as well in regards to bring an eye opening to the experiences of others. This is what we all going through. And again, there is so much hope, there is so much empower to healing.
All right. So we are going to end our interview now. And I'd like to thank you, lady, for taking your time again to share all this magnificent wisdom. Um, we'll say goodbye to our audience for now.
Fine. Yeah, bye. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Lorilet. Thank you.
You're welcome. All my joy.